Hey everybody, welcome. So glad to have everyone here. We're giving everyone a couple of minutes to get logged in. Welcome. I'm Colleen with Portugal The Place, and Susan is here from An American Friends in Portugal, and we are so excited to be here to answer your questions. We are just so honored and pleased to be able to be here to help you with your journey. Please say hello, drop your question in the chat, tell us where you're from, and we're going to start here in just another moment. We're just going to give everybody a second to get settled in and logged in. So welcome if you've just logged in. Also, just a couple of housekeeping issues. We have a lot of people that are joining us tonight, and we know you have a lot of questions. We're going to do everything we can to be able to answer as many questions as we can in the time allotted, but again, if you have any particular questions, very specific questions, we're going to defer those over for the for individual answer. We can answer those if you want to schedule a call with me later on, but we're going to try to stick to a little more general questions so that we can help everybody through the process. So listen, if you see your question being answered in another space, we can definitely jump in and get as much done as possible. And also for everyone that registered, we'll be sending out the recording of this afterwards. So if you miss something or have to step away, you're going to receive that. Welcome, Susan. Hi.
Well, it is. Sure as heck good to be here.
I'm so excited to be chatting with you, and I wish we were next to each other, but it's great to see you. You are in Cascais right now?
Exactly where it's beautifully warm, 29 degrees.
Oh, it's gorgeous today. I'm in the Silver Coast. I'm in Alcobaça, and it was equally stunning today, but it's fall, my favorite time of year. So, I love it when it's a little crisp in the morning, and then you have this gorgeous, gorgeous weather. So, welcome, Susan. Thank you so much for joining us. I feel like there are so many questions out there and so many people struggling to understand what's going on. So, without further ado, because we know we have a lot of interested people, we're going to go ahead and get those questions going. So again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We have two people behind the scenes that are helping to get those questions up. We have Fiona and Jody who are working with us behind the scenes. They're going to be looking at these questions and then posting them up for us to start answering. So whenever you're ready, folks, we can have the first question. Hey, Helen. Hi. All right. So I'd love to hear about what you've heard about recent initial temporary residence permit appointments and requirements. Well, that's a great lead question, Helen. Thank you so much. Susan, how about I'm going to turn this to you because I know you've had just so many people giving you great feedback as well. What are you hearing about the success of securing those first appointments? Let's go with that part first, and then we'll talk about the new requirements.
That's a great approach. People are securing their initial temporary residence permit appointments really without that much problem because AIMA has added a new portal. You just use contact notes and you ask for an appointment.
It's been going really well for our clients. It's no longer seems to be the logjam that we were seeing. So the feedback that I've been getting, so for everyone out there that's concerned, if they haven't gotten the appointment scheduled on the temporary visa permit on your passport, logging in and getting that appointment has been a very different experience in like the last 3 weeks to a month than in what it was early in the summer when it was really difficult. So that's great news. And I love we're going to balance positive with negative because there's a lot happening here. Let's talk about the requirements. So this for everyone that's out there, I know we've got a lot of folks that are in different stages of moving to Portugal. So I want to be extra careful that we are not confusing different stages because everything is similar but different. So for what we're talking about here is you've had your appointment in the United States or your home country, and now we're talking about the first appointment with AIMA in Portugal after you've moved. So Susan, what can you tell us about the requirements, what they're expecting at this first appointment after they've moved to Portugal?
It really is everything that is in the visa and permit manual that's in the Americans and Friends files. The only changes are that one, they will keep your passport. They think that this is okay because the process is good. Wait a minute, sorry.
You're talking, I'm
just
talking
made a
about the first, that's okay. It's so much information, even for all of us that are doing this every day, they're all very hard to track. So
Exactly.
they've gotten their visa and they have moved physically to Portugal, and we're on AIMA appointment number 1.
Exactly. The requirements are really
the same
that they have been for maybe a year and a half. It's just important that people understand how to document
their
financials,
like
having those bank statements,
Susan,
making sure that
Susan, I need to have you hold for a moment. We're getting feedback from guests that you have a really heavy echo. I know we were having some technical issues getting in. Just anyone that can pop this up. Do I have an echo? Is everyone able to hear me okay? I'm trying to see if it's StreamYard or if it's something we can troubleshoot with Susan. Let's see, any quick answers? So okay, so I'm okay. All right. Okay, Susan, without me speaking, can you just say hello to everyone real quick, and let's see if we can.
Hello.
All right. Susan, can you, on your device, can you mute yourself real quick and unmute and see if we can reboot that sound for a moment? Sorry, everyone. Technology can be so frustrating sometimes. Thank you for the feedback, though, because we want to make sure that we're getting what we can. Do you have your other device on anywhere, Susan? Do you have your laptop still on anywhere?
No,
nothing else is on.
Okay. Do you have your speakers?
And I do hear an echo also.
Do you have your speakers on? Do you have your speakers on? Where's your sound coming from?
It is coming
from speaker. It's the only way I can hear it.
Okay. All right. All right. Susan, if we went off camera, I know it's uncomfortable, but could you hold the phone to your ear without the speaker?
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so how about we go off camera? Everyone, I apologize. Susan's here. I promise she's live and with us. How about you go off camera, and then let's try you holding it to your phone so that we're not getting that double echo. See if that helps. Can we try that? I think you still have your video. Okay, it's not working. Okay. All right, so everyone, bear with us. I apologize. We're having a little bit of technical issue with Susan's connection here. So, Susan, why don't we do this? You've got, can you go, let's see, do something really quick here. So, Susan, I'm going to ask if you can go into the private chat that we have and type your answers if you can. And then I will read the answers back. It's not ideal, everyone, but as Susan's getting set up here, Fiona's going to help her with what's going on. I'm going to jump back in and answer on this first appointment. So for the first appointment, the biggest thing that you're going to need to do is you are going to need to make sure that you have all the documentation that you had for your initial visa appointment. Absolutely, everything has to match. That's really important. Secondly, you're going to need to make sure that you have your proof of income that is updated. You need to make sure that you have your proof of your accommodation. If you are in a situation where you are renting, there is a document required that is going to be an additional document beyond your registered and licensed lease. This is going to be a document that is going to be signed by your landlord, and it is going to be required to show that you are actually leasing the property. So this is a document that we are going to have that is going to need to make sure that the signature is recognized and that it is by the people that you are on the lease with. So the names have to match. So that's really important, number one. And then the second thing that you're going to need to make sure is if you've purchased a property and you're using that property as your proof of accommodation, you are also going to need to pull documents from the finance portal that are required that show that you have actually registered it and that it is in your name. So these are documents, all this is listed in American and Friends PT has a file where you can go to with the most recent documents required with a step-by-step. But the things that we know is they are verifying that you have the income in a Portuguese bank account, that you have proof of your income, how you're receiving it based on the visa that you have these new accommodation documents that are required, and that you're going to go through these documents and make sure that everything matches with your original application in your first step in the visa. So I'm also running this through with Susan while she's setting up. So while Susan's trying to see if she can troubleshoot what's going on, Fiona, you want to jump up another question here? All right, so Nina's asking, hi from North California. Hope to learn about how Portugal tax Social Security and pensions. All right, so that's three very separate things here. But in general, from the tax point of view, if you're talking about taxes on your personal income, that is a very specific to your situation. There are things that you need to consider, such as dual taxation treaties and what you can deduct and which income is taxable and how that's structured. It varies greatly depending on what your income levels are, what you have. There are also taxes that you will pay on a purchase that is a one-time tax that is paid on the top of a purchase price. There are also property taxes. So depending on the taxes how they tax Social Security, for example, and pensions, you're going to be looking at a tax structure that is based on the amount and it's progressive. So when it comes to your Social Security and pensions, you will be taxed for these things, but it's progressive and it depends on the amount that you earn and what your household income is and what your deductions are. So, hey, Terry, hi. Do the two of you see the change from 2 years to 5 years actually getting implemented? 2 years, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that we know 2 years to 5 years what you're referring to, Terry. Could you qualify on that? Are you referring to the renewals? Right now, we still have the same renewal schedule. You renew on a 5-year temporary residency permit. It's 5 years total with a renewal at 2 years and at 3 years. So that is absolutely in place. At this point, there are some questions on citizenship, if you will be able to apply for citizenship at 5 years, or if they're going to extend it to 10 years for foreigners that are applying. That is completely undecided at this point. We are still unaware if they're going to move that forward. So for residency, Terry, for the visas, the D7 and the D8, the D9, you will have a 2-year renewal and then a 3-year renewal, which will bring you to that 5-year point. And then you will, at this current time, you'll be able to decide if you want to move forward to permanent residency or if you wish to pursue citizenship. So let's see if Susan is back, how we're doing. Hey, Susan, can you hear us? Okay, so there's definitely some technical stuff, but Susan, how about we keep you there? And how about you answer the questions in the private chat as they come in, and I will read your answers. I will be your voice, okay? That way, and trust me, you can type in shorthand. I can make it work. But everybody, you're going to see where I'm at, because if she's going to do this, I'm going to do that. So we're here. So, all right, another question. All right, so Susan, is a niece required for the initial residency AIMA appointment? No, there you go. So, no, this is required for the renewal, for your renewal, which is your 2-year renewal or depending on where you are in the process, but most people are 2 and 3. But it is not required for the initial appointment. So that is very important. Even with all the chatter you're seeing, you do not need the NIES for that first AIMA appointment upon arrival. All right, next one. Do we have to appoint a fiscal representative for a NIEF application for a non-EU citizen? I'm letting Susan jump in here. So we have typing. I just want to make sure that we're here. So Susan, so you do need a fiscal representative for your NIEF if you are not a resident in Portugal. You only if you have property in Portugal. So the fiscal representative is required when you open a NIEF remotely and you aren't here, but a non-EU citizen can remove the responsibility for a fiscal representative once you've registered your address. Correct, Susan? Yes. All right, Susan and I are going to be doing a little bit of like, I had sign language in Campfire, we can try, but the NIEF website is great for the information on what is required and when you need a fiscal representative. But for those of you that had a fiscal representative that opened it remotely, once you move here, you don't have to renew with the company that had your representation. They'll send you a renewal, and if you've already moved to Portugal and you've already established residency, you do not need to renew with them. You just change that you are now here as a resident. So, all right, up next. So Carlos in Arkansas, hello. I'd like to visit and retire in Portugal. However, I've had a hiccup in the past. How does Portugal view past criminal records? I've heard it's not a problem as long as it's not murder. Well, yeah, that's true. Drug trafficking, terrorism, or human trafficking. Is that true? This is kind of, but not. Obviously, all of these things would be an 100% absolute no-go, but it is still much, much more complicated than that. If it would have resulted in a jail sentence in Portugal, it would not be possible for you to move forward. So, for example, many people that might be of a certain age, maybe were college students in the 60s and early 70s, may have gotten arrested for possession of some kind of small substance. If you never went to jail and it was that is not something to be worried about. You're not going to go to jail in Portugal for that. That is not going to be applicable. But if you had something that would require a jail sentence of 1 year, if you participated in something that created like white collar crime, like fraud, if you had a DUI, we've seen people get declined for DUIs because it's very, very strict here in Portugal. Actually, the potential for jail time is different. That's what you have to be looking at. So it isn't 100% drawn in the sand, but the chances are if it is a punishable crime by jail time in Portugal, you will be denied the residency. All right. Hi, Donovan. As a young person with no proof of income, but family who live in Portugal looking to start a new life here, which path would be for the first steps? So, Donovan, that's a little bit of a tricky question because depending on your age, your family's citizenship, how they're here, what they qualify for. If your family has Portuguese citizenship, there's different options than if your family is moving over on a residency visa. So this is a hard question to answer as an individual, but in general, if you don't have proof of income, and you're over the dependency age, then you will have to establish some means of coming here. You won't be able to come as dependent. So again, that's a little bit more of a personal question. Keith, are VA disability benefits monthly income? I lost the question, sorry. I believe you're asking if they qualify. Yes, taxed in Portugal. They aren't taxed in the United States. Susan, you want to jump in on this one? All right. So you want to give us a thumbs up or thumbs down? Yes or no? Okay, don't want to answer. Okay. So it's tough, Keith, because there's different things. That's why Susan and I was kicking it to Susan and Susan's kicking it back to me, because this is where we have to be a little careful, because we can't give tax advice. We're actually not able to give tax advice because it's so specific, but you do need to check into it because there are some tax implications you need to consider. It isn't 100% like it is in the States. All right. So what are AIMA appointments? What is a NEEF? This is great. I can answer these. You don't have to type. So a NEEF is your tax identification number. It is similar to that in the United States. So we're assuming most of us are from there. So Michael, a NEEF is the very, 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 very first thing you need to do when you're in the early stages of looking at relocating to Portugal. Everything is tied to this NEEF. It is not, however, a social security number. It doesn't have any risk associated with it. You can provide the NEEF in any situation and not be providing personal valuable information. It's not the same as a social security number in the United States, but it is your tax identification number in Portugal. It is the very first step. It's required for every visa. It's required for to open a bank account. It is your identification in Portugal. The AIMA appointment, AIMA is their immigration space. So your AIMA appointment, it's AIMA, your AIMA appointment would be basically, this is who everything goes through, determining your residency, your qualifications. They're going to do your biometrics, be issuing your cards, your renewals. AIMA is the place that handles immigration for Portugal. All right. So, Wendy. Hi, Wendy. American living in the UK, but looking to move to Portugal with remote income. Is there a Portuguese bank that you recommend or that exists in the UK so it's easy to transfer money between accounts? Well, the great news is you need a bank in Portugal. You must have a bank in Portugal, so that's required. But because you're already in the UK, you're probably pretty used to IBANs and making transfers that are using the SWIFT code IBAN system as opposed to the account number debit cards that we use in the States. So it's very, very easy to transfer money between the bank account in the UK and to Portugal. So you can open a bank account in Portugal and feel confident that you could move money. Pretty straightforward. Hi, Vicki. So can we get a NEEF in person on our scouting trip and set up a bank account while in Portugal? Qualified, yes. It's a lot more complicated, and it depends on the amount of time and patience that you have. There's a whole section on this through the American and Friends files. This is why American and Friends, if you guys are not in the group yet, because I know we shared this out through a variety of resources, let me just say that American and Friends in Portugal has an amazing depth of knowledge that's shared with no cost that will guide you through all these different details. Now, that's one of the reasons of Portugal the Place. We don't have a giant volume of documents showing you how to go step by step, because we refer all of our clients to American and Friends, because these folks volunteer their time. They are giving us the most up-to-date information. They're very actively engaged. They have lots of volunteers that are involved, and it's being vetted and checked. So first off, anyone that's watching this, the files are amazing at American and Friends, and there's just so many details. And if any of the admins and the volunteers are on this along with Susan, it's thank you, because we couldn't have come to Portugal without you. And I know that you've been invaluable to everyone. So when I say yes-ish, to go and get a NEEF in person and then to go and set up a bank account can feel overwhelming and cumbersome. It is doable for sure, but you want to allot time. Nothing goes as fast in Portugal as you would expect. So going in to open a bank account without an appointment can take a long, long time. Hitting the finance department at the wrong time, trying to get a NEEF, depending on the office. Susan, you know what I'm talking about. One office can be like, let's go. And the other one is like, I'm here for hours. So few banks are only opening foreign bank accounts. We have relationships with, when you work with Portugal the Place, we have a private relationship with Novo Banco, and we can open a bank account remotely for you. We can handle that. Santander, Caixa CGD, you can open banks in person along, as long as you've got your NIF already. But please, please be prepared. Don't try to squeeze it in with everything else you're doing. You need time allotted because the banks, it takes a while. So the NIF, if the finance department you hit on a day when the Portuguese are coming in to deal with their things, you could be in lines and then you might stand there for hours and then they leave for lunch. So it's just important, if you want to do it when you're here, that you're not here on like a 5-day scouting trip, because you could literally lose a whole day trying to do this or more. We know. All right. So Wendy, can we obtain a NIF and set up a bank account from the UK, or do we need to travel? You can do it from the UK. You can do remote. There are companies, Borders, for example. Borders does online NIFs for you, borders.com, they do that. And then, like I said, like we have a relationship with the bank. We can do it online. Once you have your NIF, that's your very first thing to worry about. And then once the NIF comes in, NIF Now, PT, Borders, there's options online and they're all pretty similar. But just so you know, what used to take about 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks, is definitely taking closer to 3 weeks to a month. The paperwork is getting longer and longer. So try to allow for that in your time and prepare for that. All right. So I have 2 large dogs. What kind of paperwork would I need to do to bring them with me? And are there any restrictions? So we have brought our large furry friend. So Dutch is a Newfie Doodle, and we brought him over. He's 125 pounds. And as far as dog breed restrictions, it is the typical dog breed restrictions. So if you have dogs that fall in the Staffordshire Terrier, if you're in the Rottweiler, in those sections, there are some extra requirements. But if it is a lab or, one of the other big breeds, there's no restriction. And the paperwork is the same for dogs in general, but there is a file, again, in American and Friends that can walk you through this. But from someone that did it, we hired a company. Okay, so this is why. So Susan, we hired a company because I was moving, my family, my father, we were closing down a house, selling a car, and then I learned that I had to get the paperwork for the dog so many, like 10 days before the flight. I had to have all the proof of stuff. So I actually hired a company, pet relocation company in the States, that handled it all for me, door to door. It was an investment, but it was peace of mind that I didn't miss a key piece and leave Dutch sitting on a tarmac somewhere. So there's a great file in American Friends that can help you with this. And each carrier has different rules. But one rule of thumb when you're moving your pet, think about the time of year, because no matter what type of animal, if they're in the cargo hold, you will be dealing with restrictions when it comes to extreme temperatures. So if you live in Arizona, for example, and you want to move your dog, they can't be on the tarmac if it's over 82 degrees. So that's incredibly important when you're trying to time your flights and figure out where you're going. Hey, Mac, how do you secure a 12-month lease of a resident in Portugal before your VFS appointment? Hey, thanks, Susan. That's one of the things we do, and we do all the time, and are very, very happy to be helping folks with. So if you use a company such as ours in Portugal, the Place, we will work with everyone that's got a property available, private, real estate agents, property management, to find that lease for you. In our case, we don't work on commission. We're not real estate agents. So we just work with everyone and walk you from the first step to the end. The big thing to understand right now, and I'm so glad, Mac, that you brought this question up, real estate rentals, long-term rentals are so in demand that the market is so tough right now. A year ago, I would have had a very different conversation. But if you're considering moving here right now, you have to be realistic about your budget. You are not going to come to Portugal and live in Lisbon and spend $1,000 a month. It's not going to happen. You have to understand that Portugal has been discovered. So when it comes to rentals, the demand has shot up, and with that means it's a seller's market, it's a landlord's market, and we're seeing more and more things like larger deposits required, more rent, higher rents, limited inventory, especially in the most popular areas. And if you have dogs, if you have ability issues, like you need a place without stairs, things like that, the more filters you have, the harder and harder it will be to locate. One of the things I'm very proud of, and I know Susan and I feel very the same on this, is I keep it real. Portugal is a fantastic country. I love this country. Portugal's inventory right now on rentals especially is incredibly challenging. And if you're not ready to spend the money and if you're not prepared to compromise, you are going to find it really frustrating. So if you are trying to have a cheap experience, Portugal is not the country for that, especially with what Americans expect out of an accommodation. So how we secure a lease when we work with you, we go through and vet the properties. We look at them. We're looking for things like aspect, the light, how much natural light it has, what kind of ventilation it has. We're looking for issues with smell tests, like does it smell like it's got water issues, mold? What are the neighborhood like? What are the amenities close by? How close does it come to your wish list? We're vetting and checking all of those things. If you're doing it on your own, there are platforms like Idealista, Supercasa. There are places you can go in groups, but at that point, it's calling and emailing and trying to communicate with people that may or may not speak English and working through that. But please, whether you work with us or not, I can't stress this enough. Never, ever send money to anyone without a signed, vetted legal contract. I cannot tell you how many people that have come to us after the fact asking us to try to help them get their money back because someone said, send me 1 month of the rent and then I will hold the apartment and I'll do the contract for you. It absolutely should be a huge red flag. Have a lawyer review the lease, make sure that it's registered, that it is legal, and never send money before you have an agreement. Anything else to add to that, Susan? Okay, all right, so on to the next one. All right, what is the trick for getting a VSF appointment close together for a family of 3 or more if everyone needs separate appointments? Susan, do you have any tricks up your sleeve? I think she's typing. So there is no trick. Okay, I was hoping you knew something I didn't know, Susan. Come on. There is no trick. The biggest thing you have to deal with is the fact that they require these appointments for each person, and I know it's incredibly frustrating, but you are going to have to continuously. The one thing I can tell you is you've got to have different devices, have computers open at the same time. If you go into those accounts, go in the morning, in the early AM, the middle of the night. If you're trying to log on at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not going to find anything. That's the best thing I can tell you is it's uncomfortable and inconvenient. You just have multiple, if you've got all of the family, you're going to have everything open at once so you can look across the calendars. And if you grab anything that even looks remotely possible, grab those appointments. If you're within 48 hours of each other, grab those appointments because you're not going to find anything better. And appointments open for the next month at about the 2 and 3 week of the prior month. So Susan was just sharing, it's a cycle. You just got to get in there. You got to get in there early. And if you're on the San Francisco side, imagine everyone west of the Rockies are going to San Francisco, and that means you've got time changes that are involved. Not everyone's on the same time zone. So those people that are catching it earlier than you, so you really do have to think about the fact that you're competing for those appointments with people that are an hour ahead of you or whatever. So try to get in there in the morning or at night and then just set an alarm, get those devices on and grab whatever you can. Okay, so your initial AIMA appointment was scheduled in August of 2026, 7 months after my visa expires. Am I able to reschedule? What do we think, Susan? Do we hold it or do we reschedule? Don't reschedule. That's my opinion too. Susan was like, don't reschedule. I know it's incredibly inconvenient and you are in limbo, but you could end up in a situation where it's almost impossible to get another appointment, and you'll become lower on the list of priorities because to them you gave up a spot as opposed to being grateful for getting a spot. So unfortunately, it's far out, but fortunately you have an appointment. So it's one of those situations where I would not let that appointment go because they're so valuable right now. All right, so can you talk a little about the current discussions in Parliament over changing both the residency law, counting time from application, and the naturalization law 5 to 10 years? Is it generally considered a good idea to rush to apply now to be grandfathered into the current system? Right now, we don't know anything yet. They haven't confirmed anything yet, and there's a very good chance that this is going to be hung up in some version of court for versions of things that we don't know. Susan, do you feel like, in my opinion, rushing right now isn't, if you qualify for citizenship, of course, apply now. If you've got your language in, if you've got your time in, then absolutely, if that's your intention, apply now. But for example, if you're coming up on that piece, you just are in the same situation as the rest of us. We just have to sit and wait and see if they grandfather us in, if they let us apply, if they extend it. There's no way of telling yet. But if you are currently today, at this moment, qualified to apply for citizenship, then yes, I would get that in right now if that's your intention. Remember, you don't have to apply for citizenship. It's not a forced requirement. You can do permanent residency. Still has the language requirement, but you can do permanent residency, or you can renew for another temporary residency permit. It isn't required. They have already approved time from the initial application as accounted towards the 5-year requirement. So that's already been taken care of. And the law also struck down issues with family reunification. They already took that out of the equation. So we're still waiting for clarification on the 5-year to 10-year piece. All right. How do you like that? I get to be Susan's mouthpiece. I've never done this before. I never thought I would say that. So, hey, so thank you for all your feedback. Can I obtain a NIF without the help of an attorney or someone else in Portugal if I'm still located in, hold on just a second. I'm sorry. I'm reading this quickly through. Can I obtain a NIF without the help of an attorney or someone else in Portugal if I'm still located in the US, planning a move next April or May? Thank you. You have to have a fiscal representative if you are not if you're not even a resident or in Portugal, because you have to have a fiscal representative, someone that takes responsibility for you. So if it's not an attorney, that's fine, but you have to have somebody go with you if you're here. So, so you have to do that. So that's just part of the process. You can't, let's see, Nadia, I will not need a visa. I'm French, okay, and I will be retired when I move next year, but with no official retirement income, too young still. Would I need a guarantor to rent an apartment? And if so, are there companies that provide that service for a fee? Well, you could need a guarantor. Any landlord is going to want to look for your dependability and ability to pay for your rent. So if you have a substantial bank account, if you have ways to show that you have means to support yourself, that could be considered. It's not across the board, always a guarantor. It really depends on where you're looking. If you're looking in Lisbon, you're going to have more issues than maybe if it's a more personal relationship in a smaller town where it could be. There are so many influences on this, but Susan, how do you feel about companies that provide this service for a fee? So Susan is saying you're an EU citizen, you register with the Camera or as a crew applicant as to rent, it's how the owner views your financials. So we don't provide a fee. We would not charge a fee to be a guarantor. I don't work with any companies that do that, so I'm not familiar with how that would work, and I haven't had anyone use those. Susan, I don't know, do you have any recommendations? No. No, I don't. I don't have any idea on that one. But being that you're an EU citizen and that you would be able to register, you may be considered a little bit more favorably than perhaps someone coming from a place where they can't verify all of the information. Barbara is asking, how is one able to travel in Europe while waiting for your AIMA appointment? Well, you really aren't. So you don't. The good news is you made it to Portugal. The frustrating part for some is you can't start doing all the travel that you're wanting to do. You are going to be in limbo and you will need to stay in Portugal. If there is an emergency, if there is some kind of an emergency, there are extraordinary measures that can be done to get you permission, but that doesn't count for like just wanting to take a cruise. Now, if you want to drive to Spain, that's fine. You're going to cross over open roads with no border checks. But in this period of time, you are going to be in Portugal, and it is really encouraged that you kind of just take a deep breath and make your plans around the idea of settling in and getting set up in your home. And the last person that was saying they didn't get their appointment until 7 months after their visa, that's frustrating, absolutely understandable, but you would want to be aware that they are tracking that and they are looking to make sure that you're following the rules. Hi, Susan. So I'm having a hard time getting an IBAN from Novo Banco. Are there any tricks to finding and the documenting this if the bank is not helping? Your IBAN should be on your app. So if you have your app downloaded on your phone, you can open your app, and on the right side, I have Novo Banco, so that's why I know where it is. Like on the right side, there's a little icon that says IBAN. You just click that and you get a document that you can share with anyone that needs your IBAN. It's official. It has your IBAN, your SWIFT code, and your name and that kind of thing. So it's very straightforward in any bank, not just Novo Banco. All your apps will have a spot, and the IBAN icon looks like, how do I explain it? It's like two lines with like a little circle. It's like a little image, but it usually says IBAN right next to it, and that's what you click on. And then you can download it as a PDF. My suggestion is save it in your phone because it's, again, IBANs are designed to securely protect your account. People can't do anything with the IBAN except send you money. So you're not going to have any risk, like Americans are used to holding their account numbers very close to them. The IBAN is used to share. So download the IBAN PDF. Stick it in your phone, save it, and that way you can share it really easily with folks when you need it. Hi, Ernest. Hey, Kurt. All right. So Joanna is wonderful. She was great. We have a great relationship at Portugal the Place with Novo Banco. They've been amazing in supporting our clients. And so we're really lucky and very grateful to Novo Banco for working with us and helping people navigate this process. And no, we did not pay Ernest and Kurt for the shout out. So, all right. Karen, what's the most common mistake people mistake in their immigration process? Susan, if you want to type some of your thoughts here, I will jump in with the first thing is not being organized. Susan also has not reading the requirements and jumping ahead of the process. A lot of people reach out to us and they're like, I want to find an apartment. And they didn't ever read the visa requirements. And then they kind of go down the line of finding accommodation and didn't realize they needed proof of income, for example. So read through all of the files. Again, American and Friends has detailed files on all of these different visas. But read through them and do a soft checklist first. See what you qualify for, right? So the visa and how it works is, about the money, okay? A lot of it is about the money. One of the biggest mistakes I think people make is the fact that they think because they're going to retire next month, they can apply now and just show that they have a pension coming or Social Security. You need 3 months of deposited income to count as in your application. So if you're retiring, you have to account for the time of receiving your different income. You have to show that being deposited. It's really important of knowing why you want to move. What's your goal? Do you intend to work afterwards? Are you going to purchase later? Are you going to be wanting only to stay for 5 years, or are you looking to stay for long term? What visa is the best fit for you and your family? Do you have, adult dependents? Do you have aging parents? Are you carrying? There's so many things that affect the visa. One thing that they've kind of switched, and Susan, you've seen this in the newest version of the wording, they used to call the D7 visa specifically a retirement visa. And now they've clearly got it as a passive income visa, and you have one section that's retired and one section that's very clearly about passive income. Most people don't think about their income in a passive form, right, Susan? We kind of just think we have income. So if you have a pension, if you have Social Security, you're a retiree, that's a retiree piece. If you are younger and you have passive income through investments and you have a whole bunch of rentals and you have those proof of income, the months of proof of income, you could qualify under a passive income visa. So it's not about age. That's important. I think people get hung up that they have to be over 55 or whatever. It's more about what your income is structured like. If you are a veteran, and thank you for your service, if you receive benefits from disability, that doesn't matter what age you are. That is a passive income qualifier. So really get in and understand the nuances of your circumstance, but read, and asking great questions like you're all asking tonight. Really important to get prepared. Hey, Sharon, can you share the URL for American and Friends in Portugal? So we will, it's right in the banner that's going across the bottom there. So you can see facebook.com/groups/American and Friends PT. So we're going. So if you go onto Facebook, go to the main menu and just enter, you can also just search like Americans in Portugal, American and Friends in Portugal, and it'll pop up. It's got over 50,000 members. It's one of the most prevalent spots online. You're going to log in, you're going to request approval to join, and you're going to agree to the terms and conditions, and then you can get in the group. All right. Okay. Hey, Lisa. Is the Algarve region also in high demand? Absolutely. The Algarve region is never out of demand. I will say that it's not for everyone. People have a lot of different opinions about the Algarve, and it appeals across the board to a variety of folks. One of my dear Portuguese friends once used a phrase that I think is the most perfect to describe Portugal. There is a lid for every pot. That is the phrase he translated. And so the Algarve for some is exactly what they want. For others, it's not. And this is a very personal decision, but I just came back. I was there earlier this week helping a client find a property to purchase. And it's a beautiful place. I was in Tavira. It's one of the most scenic and historic parts of the Algarve. The beaches are stunning down there. If you're a golfer, it is the part of the country that you really are going to be drawn to. And if you're one of those people that really doesn't want to see rain, the Algarve is for you. But it comes at a cost. It is discovered. It has been found. It has no deals to be had, really. It is definitely, you're going to pay to play if you want to live in the Algarve. All right. What about low demand locations? Or are there such places? Well, I used to last year, or a year and a half, 2 years ago, I might have been able to give you a whole bunch of hidden gems that people could have a great quality of life. I live in Alcobaça on the Silver Coast. And when we moved here, there were like 5 Americans. Not the case now. That might partially be due to us, so we're going to take responsibility. But the general consensus is most of the areas in Portugal are really rapidly developing in the areas most desirable. And what I mean by that is the coastal sections, whether you're way far north or heading down to South Alentejo. The lower demand locations, and if I'm looking at lower demand, I'm also talking about weather, the climate in general, the access to amenities, the quality of life, your isolation, which as an immigrant is incredibly important to consider. there are some places, Castelo Branco, for example, Guarda, if you go into the Alentejo, like Beja, places like that, Estremoz, there are places with low demand, but there's a reason. There's a reason. Not everybody is interested in living so far away from airports or having access to, the ocean or, Susan, do you have some areas that you're kind of thinking? I know, I want to hear Susan so bad. I am so sorry, everyone. I'm sure you're sick of hearing my own voice. But this is, Portugal is being more and more discovered. There are some beautiful interior places, but there are reasons that they're in low demand, and it usually has accessibility to amenities and isolation. Those are usually the reasons that they're not quite as interesting to people. Healthcare is another issue. Thank you, Susan. That's another issue. Having access and getting in conveniently to Coimbra, to Porto, to Lisboa, the places that have the large private medical facilities, that's also a consideration. It is one thing we can help you with, though, that I should say. We do location scouting and searching for purchase or rental all over the country. And my Portuguese friends laugh. I've probably been to more places in Portugal than most Portuguese because we don't have any area that we don't go to. So we've been in very quiet places all the way up on the Spanish border in the north. And I have been in places in the east side that I'd prefer not to go to again. So, all over. Hey, Tim. I have recently signed up with PTP and currently working with Pedro. I have to say the experience has been nothing short of amazing. What can I expect from my site visit for purchasing an apartment? I'm interested in other amenities that are close to the property, such as a grocery, shopping, gyms, etc. What would the process be if any of the locations don't work out during the site visit and I need to schedule another visit? So if you are planning to purchase, Tim, then you're working with me. So what I do is I go through all of that with you, and I make sure one of the most important things we talk about is the lifestyle and the surroundings. And again, right to the point from the last conversation is what is available? What are the amenities? What fits your lifestyle? So for people with dogs, they're looking for walkability. For people like the gym, what is accessible? For folks that maybe don't want to deal with hills, all of those different things we're taking into consideration, not just the property. And if we don't find the property while you're here, which can happen for sure, we continue to scout virtually. And in that case, when that does happen, it usually goes very quickly because we've spent so much time together that we know exactly what you're looking for. Just the right one wasn't quite there. And then a couple weeks later, it pops up. And then I go and do the same thing that I did with you in person. I do virtually give you a live walkthrough with me, or I record it for you and provide it out to you. So my goal is to look at it through three lenses. Does it fit your wish list today? If the worst happens, we're immigrants, things change. Is it a place that would sell quickly? Is it something to the best of our ability would put you in a good position if something happened? And does it serve you in the long run? Is this a starter house that you want to move to something else, or is this the house you want to stay in for the foreseeable future? So using those three prongs and kind of working with you and understanding what your life that you want is, then we fit the property into that. All right. And thank you, Tim. Thanks for the kind words. Hey, Wendy, if you know someone in Portugal, are they able to provide the accommodation requirement if they are willing to, or is it required to be a formal leasing agreement only? So there is something called a TOR. So it is, Susan and I are like bouncing back and forth here. So it is absolutely a possibility, but the person does have to take a term of responsibility. So there is a legal document that has to be created. They have to have proof of residency, citizenship. They have to provide the house. It is a full document. But yes, if you have someone that is agreeable to it, I would suggest having the TOR drawn up by a lawyer, making sure it's a legal and binding document so that it can be proven and provided as part of your visa requirement. Anything else, Susan, to add to that? No? Yes? Okay, she's typing. All right, one more thing. All right, so the TOR can be convenient. If it's not a relative, the TOR person might not qualify. That's a great point, Susan. If it's not a relative, if you wanted to ask me, for example, they're not gonna allow that. They're gonna see right through that because we don't have a familial connection. We don't have a bond. So family is gonna be your best bet. Janice. what is reasonable rent in Lisbon now versus Lagos? Wow, okay. This is a great question because I've been just in both places just recently working on this. So that's a loaded question because I don't know what you want to rent. So a reasonable rent for a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, a standalone house, an apartment, what neighborhood? There's so many factors that really impact that question. And we're happy to help you navigate all of that. But in general, if you want to be in a reasonable neighborhood in Lisbon, in one of the more desirable areas that are for Americans, and what I mean by that is walkability, amenities, a sense of community, accessibility to the airport. So there's a variety of neighborhoods that could qualify in. If you want a modest apartment that is not new or considered luxury, that has basic amenities, an elevator, and air conditioning and is around 80 square meters, so about 800 square feet, you're looking easily around 1,700 to 25 or more, depending on the location per month. And I'm being very careful here, and this could change by next week and be even higher. It is all about demand, and if it comes furnished, what the quality of the location is, if it has green space, if it has parking, there are so many variables on that. But in general, you've got to get above 1,500, and we're talking at that point, it'd probably be a lower floor and not be furnished, and not take pets at like 1,700. You got to come in higher, over 2,000, to really start getting some options even at all. Lagos is really tough for another reason, because a lot of places make much more money having them as vacation rentals. And so trying to get the long-term rental is just a demand issue. And so you're going to spend, if you really want to live in Lagos, like Lagos, and be able to walk to the marina and participate in the city with that same size, with the same amenities, you would easily, again, if you want any kind of view, walkability, city center, easily be sitting at 1,800 to 2,500 or more. The prices in these two places you've mentioned, the demand, you would struggle to find things. In some cases, you might be pushing even higher, and be prepared in both places for large amounts of deposits, more than first last. They'd be looking at, we're starting to see people asking for 6 months, whereas before it might have been 3 months. So it's not what they should be doing, but they know they own the market. And so they're pushing really hard to get more deposits. They're raising the rent. If you have pets, they're adding an extra requirement. So for the Algarve, Lagos, Lisbon, be prepared. You do need a healthy budget. All right. So Nicholas, do you guys help with referrals with real estate lawyers? So we work with all the real estate lawyers that you need. We have fantastic referrals. It depends on where you are. We have different referrals in different places. But again, to my earlier point, if you weren't with us, it's really, really important that if you're entering into any real estate transaction, that in this case, you work with an attorney. Do not send money before you've had a reviewed contract. If you're purchasing real estate, and again, you wander into a situation where they're like, just give us 10,000 and then we'll work on the contract. Red flag. You might have someone ask you for a reserve, but that is usually a real estate agent that has got a new construction project. It's a very formal document and it's all very legal. But we've seen, unfortunately, people get sucked into a private sale where someone's like, just send me some money and then we'll work out the details. That is not how it works here. Once money is exchanged, it is practically impossible to get it back, even if you have nothing to show for it. So yes, we can get referrals for real estate lawyers. We have a fantastic real estate attorney when you work with us that we work with that is incredibly experienced. But I really, really advise anyone out there, this is not something, immigration attorneys you don't necessarily need. You can do all of that through American and Friends files. The immigration side, very clean, lots of straightforward information out there. Real estate, a whole other ballgame. All right. How much is your rental assistance fee? Can you do this as a standalone service? So Kristen, I would really encourage you to schedule a call with us because we have different packages depending on where you are, what you're looking for. And it is a standalone. We have a relocation package that is standalone just about the rental, and it handles everything from hooking up your utilities, because that's a big part of it, making sure it's registered, getting you these new documents that are required. Now that you lease, you have to have recognized signatures for the landlord. So that's all part of what we do, but it depends on where you are and what you need. So we'd love to talk to you. Feel free to reach out, and we're happy to schedule a time and walk you through that. And Kristen, does your company help from the very beginning, like which visa you qualify for, such as D7 or D8, and keep helping till we get there? Absolutely. Absolutely. We work, we're not attorneys, so we work in the DIY space. And what I mean by that is with the amazing support that we see through American Friends, the resources that we make sure we're up to date on, we will walk beside you and verify and help make sure that you're okay with what you need. And especially on the accommodation side, the documents with utilities, there's lots of things that we step right with you. But then the rest of the process, we help you buy a car, we help you find insurance, we help get your kids set up to enroll in school, we help you with translation. There is every service we do in our relocation packages is from beginning to end. It's kind of hard to get rid of us. That's the thing is we love community. We love to help you connect with people. We have built-in communities we introduce you to. So for us, it's about going on the journey with you and being people that are there and ready to answer your questions. All right. All right. Hey, Stephen, pros and cons for a D7 couple. Both get D7 or one get D7 and the other a company? Susan, right now we're going both visas, correct? Yes. So right now, because of what's been going on with the hassle of family reunification and those appointments taking so long and being just so challenging, we're really encouraging everyone to get their own visa. So I would stay on that track. I will tell you, if you try to reach with an immigration attorney, they will try to encourage you to do the family reunification. And it's a nightmare. It really isn't the way to go. So there's great files in American and Friends that can walk you through this. There's lots of threads that talk about this. But in our experience, if you are both going for the visa and you both have the visa, then you will be on track and be much, much more confident in the process. That family reunification later can be really tricky. All right. Hey, Doris. We really like the country feel, but close to the convenience of the city, especially when it comes to grocery shopping. Are there any areas like that? And what is the likelihood of finding a home in those types of areas? What is transportation like? That is a great description of Portugal. That really is, because Doris, I live in a place just like that. And there are countless towns that are in this size. And Susan knows we're both smiling because that's what makes Portugal so beautiful. If you're in the US, one of the things that has happened is a town of 25,000 people in the US can feel really dead. Like it doesn't have any center anymore, and you drive everywhere. In Portugal, I live in a town, Alcobaça, that's a town of 25,000 people, and it's vibrant and alive. And there's a local bus that's free, and there's Flixbus, which will take us to Lisbon in an hour. That's like just a couple euros to go. And grocery stores, like in our town of 25,000, we have literally every grocery store we could ask for. We have markets. We have like what they call a farmer's market, like a municipal market. We have pharmacies. We have a hospital. We have private clinics. You have a lifestyle where people live outside of their homes. They don't order online the same way. People communicate. I've never seen a town, I don't know, Susan, you're probably going to laugh about this, but Portuguese love underwear. What is with the tons of like lingerie shops in a town of 25,000 people? I swear, like every block I could buy underwear, eyeglasses, and shoes. It's like crazy how much you can do in a smaller town. So Doris absolutely can find a place in the countryside and have the amenities close by. That's totally possible. All right. And how are we doing on questions? Let's see. We're working through. I know we're at the top of the hour. We had a little moment that we kind of had a stumble. So if we have a couple more questions, then we'll wrap this up. Hey, Kira, what is the best way of getting around having to rent or buy a place before the visa is approved? Obviously, nobody wants to pay for months of rent when they're not staying at their place. You don't get around it. Every single person pays this. Every single person makes the choice to follow the rules of the visa, and every problem we're having with the visa of changes that they make more strict is because someone tried to get around it. So everybody, myself, everyone has paid for months of rent before you're here. It is exactly what you have to do. They have to have proof of accommodation. They have to have this information, and many come here in their rental while awaiting their visa approval, so you don't spend that much time without it. If you buy a property, you could come and stay in it and, in this period of time, but there is no way around this. And a lot of the reasons we have these additional signatures required for the rental with the landlord, the reason that we're having to get these extra pre-dial documents with purchases is for the very reason that you brought up. People are trying to go around the system, and now they're trying to put checks in place so people don't do that. All right, so Kaylee, just had my consultation with Clyde. He's the best. And thank you. I think so. Sorry if this was answered. Had to join late. With the D7, we need to have 20K in the bank. Can those funds be used for renting in Portugal, or does all that money need to stay in there until the visa? It needs to stay there for the visa and for the first appointment. You are going to need to show that balance. And I don't know, Kaylee, if it's you and your husband or spouse, or if it's you and family, there's different amounts. So whoever's watching this, the amount required for the visa is different depending on how many's in the family. But I understand that the funds that you're going to put in there, you need to have those funds there for your first initial appointment in the United States. And then they will verify those funds again when you have your first appointment in Portugal. Then again on your renewal. So those funds are necessary. You can take it out for rent during the in-between time. So you can put it in there, but you just have to be able to replace it when you go for your AIMA. So it just has to show those balances are accurate for when they're checking. So you could qualify, yes, you could use it in between, but you have to have the money to put back in there. Jackie, will Portugal the place help with getting a NIF and bank account with purchasing relocation service? Border is no longer helping with bank accounts. We're working with all the different NIF companies, so we are not a fiscal representative in-house. So we work with Borders for the NIF, but in our service packages, we include opening the bank account remotely. That's one of the things we're very proud of, is that we built that relationship. So our clients have that option to open a bank account online, and we help you through all of that. So yes, we do that. And Nadia, if a move is planned for April, May 2026, when should we engage your services? Ooh, now, because it's closer than you think. We really need to back up from if you want to physically live here in April, May of 2026, and we need to allow at least 90 days or more for the visa to be approved. So you work backwards from that. So let's say you want to live in May. So we go backwards, April, March, February, and then we need to have a couple months to find the property if it's a rental. So now we're back in January, December, and then we need to get you set up on all the NIFs and the bank accounts and everything before that. Now is a great time to get set up with us, Nadia. That's the thing. If you're thinking about moving in 2026, the time is now to get started, because there's a lot of things you need to do to get prepared. All right, so last question. You guys have been great. Susan, thank you for hanging in there. I know this technical difficulty has been difficult, to say the least, but you've been amazing. So we're just going to wrap this up with a last question. All right. And Danielle, do you have a recommendation for where to get the best private health care once we have our visas? So Susan, I'm going to let you throw your ideas in there. Also, I'm going to shout out to American and Friends. They have a great files on the health insurance. But I personally, my private health care, and the one that most of our clients love, is MGen, because it doesn't have a medical interview. You don't have to do a medical exam. So if you carry any pre-existing conditions, if there's anything you're concerned about, MGen is slightly more expensive, but it's easier to get. There are brokers that we can recommend. So Gred or Miguel Salvador. We also have partners that we can recommend that will walk you through the comparisons. But just in general, if you're looking for private health insurance and you're concerned about having pre-existing conditions covered, MGen, which is MGEN, MGen is by far the most flexible private insurance, and they have a lot of coverage in Portugal. So that's just a starting point, Danielle, but that's something that we all can help with at some point as well. And brokers can customize the plan. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate. Thank you for jumping in. So, okay. So everyone, oh my gosh, you guys have all been absolutely incredible. The questions have been fantastic, and your participation has meant so much to us. Susan, you know we might have to do a redo. Yeah. Oh, yeah, with wine. So we'll see what the questions are. But I can't thank you enough, Susan, for being here and helping us help folks navigate through this. Anyone that is interested in learning more about the process, our consultations do not have a fee attached. We welcome you scheduling a meeting with us to ask your specific questions, and we'll give you the straight information. If you don't qualify yet, if there's some kind of barrier, we want you to know, because my job is not to sell Portugal to you. It's to help you, if you've made the decision, navigate the process. So we're here to help. Susan is an amazing resource. If you are not a member of American and Friends PT, I really recommend going there, digging into the files, and then let us know if we can help you. And really, really appreciate everyone today. And good luck to you and your journey to Portugal. Thank you so much. Thank you.